Hello and welcome. This will be a bit of a more educational video for the people out there. This information is very long overdue on being made public, years overdue, and it's a bit of a shame that almost no information on the new games is available out there in English. So perhaps I'll take it upon myself to make that information a little bit more widespread. So depending on how I feel about it, I might end up doing more videos like this one, which are just me teaching you everything I know about the game. But if there is a place to start, that's definitely on the multiplayer box that you will run into and you will have to deal with if you want to play any of these games online, especially for answers. So let's get into it. So this one is going to be a bit tricky to explain, and for both to understand it, we need to be on the same page. So I'm going to teach you the basics of the game in order for you to understand it. First of all, I'm going to teach you how the game itself works, and mainly the hit registration, which is very important. The first thing you need to know about the hit registration is that it is almost entirely defender side, with the exception of two weapon classes, which don't really matter for this video. So what does defender side registration mean? To put it in simple terms, it means that a hit will only be registered when it hits you in your screen. If you're getting shot, the damage will only be registered if you get hit yourself. What does this mean? It means that if you see the enemy getting hit, that is by no means a guaranteed hit. It doesn't matter, basically. So it will only matter if the enemy themselves got hit on their side of the screen. And the defender side can be a bit confusing, so I'm gonna pull out some graphics in here to help you understand. The issue with defender side registration is that it will end up inevitably creating really weird situations where for you it may seem that you are hitting every single shot, but what you see is basically almost worthless, because it's just a vague idea of what's going on. And same for the enemy. The enemy may end up thinking that they are hitting every shot, but in reality you are evading everything, and that's a big thing that not all of the new players know. So they will end up running into situations where they end up dumping an entire magazine on you, but because you're evading every single bullet, it doesn't matter, because you're not getting hit. With that out of the way, what is circle glitching? So for this you need to understand another concept, which is what we call the shadow, which is basically your position on the enemy's screen. However, there will be cases where the distance between your shadow and yourself is very huge. This is because the netcode is entirely peer-to-peer, and it's basically held together by duct tape and gum, and it can't really keep up with the speed of the players accurately. During regular maneuvers, this is mostly fine. However, there is one maneuver in particular that will generate the most amount of separation with your shadow, which will make you seem invincible to any kind of projectile. This is what we call circle glitching. Now you may ask, okay Celt, but what's that maneuver you're talking about? Well, this game-breaking maneuver is none other than quick boosting in the same direction one too many times. Yes, it's very basic, it's very underwhelming, but let me explain you how it works. This will fuck up the netcode only when going side to side. So for example, you only boost to the left, non-stop. This will make you boost sideways in a circle around your opponent, which is the reason for the name. You will be drawing a circle around them. And the logic behind it is what I described earlier. If you keep moving fast in that single direction, you will end up leaving the shadow so far behind from your actual position that it will start creating problems with the hit registration. Because what the enemy is seeing is basically your position several seconds in the past. So when they shoot at it, they're gonna be basically shooting at empty air, and it will give the illusion of you becoming invincible to any damage. But Celt, you may ask, you mentioned side to side, but wouldn't going only forward or only backwards have the same result? Very good question, non-existent entity. That is true. Going in a single direction forward or backwards will also create a great amount of separation from your shadow. However, there's a key difference, and is that when you move forward or backwards, you're moving through depth, which means that if you're going backwards and the enemy shoots at your shadow, they are basically be shooting in your same direction, and the bullets will just go through it and hit you anyway. Same deal if you're going forwards, for even more obvious reasons, because you're literally just running headfirst into bullets, so you're bound to get hit if you're just going forward. So let's see this happen in game. I kidnapped Lethal Dose in order to help me capture footage, and in here I asked him to start boosting sideways as quickly as he could in order to trigger the circle glitch, and then I started shooting my sniper cannons. And as you can see, despite me hitting almost every shot in my screen, in his I was just hitting empty air because my shots were aimed at his shadow and not his AC itself. So these shots are basically useless and they won't deal any damage. So what's the solution then? Well, there isn't any other than just not doing circle glitching. If you ever see footage of any player worth their weight in salt, you will notice that they will never boost in the same direction more than once or twice, unless it's like absolutely necessary, or they are just actively fucking with you. And instead, they will mix forward and back quick boosts into their sideways ones in order to create the least amount of separation possible, while still being able to move in that same direction. Now that we left the more complex stuff behind, let's move to something a little bit more simple, but equally as game-breaking. So, what's White Lock Glitch? It is a client-exclusive bug that will render all of your left side weapons, excluding missiles, useless and unable to track properly after your right side weapons have been dropped. The origin of the name comes from the fact that when the bug is happening, the person affected by it will not be able to acquire a red lock in the spectator view or the enemy's screen, despite them being able to do so in their own screen. What this entails is that your weapons will effectively never track the enemy properly on their screen, which is where it counts to deal damage, so they are effectively useless. This is what it looks like if you are being affected by it. This is what it looks like if the enemy is being affected by it. If you are affected by the White Lock glitch, you have basically lost the match unless you have enough AP and there's very little time remaining on the clock so that you can just time scam the enemy by running away or evading their weapons until they run out of ammo or time. Weapons like assault armor, piles, missiles, blades, though I have a lot to say about that in a minute, and rockets can still deal damage despite the White Lock glitch, as these weapons are either guided by the missile lock or they are just purely manual aimed and do not rely on the lock-on system for the guns in order to function properly. Hey Celt, you mentioned that this bug is client exclusive. What does that mean? Well, the answer is that it only affects the client, so if you are the host of the room, you will never be affected by it. So one of the possible solutions to this bug is being the host every time. But that comes with its own set of consequences, as in this game the host has a disadvantage due to the peer-to-peer nature of it. As for other more conventional solutions, you can either turn off auto-purge in the option menu and ensure that you won't drop your right arm guns during the fight once they have run out of ammo, or you can simply rearrange your weapon set in order to put the weapons with the most ammo on the right side. And this will ensure that even if the fight drags to the point where both players are fighting to the last bullet, that very last bullet will be on your right side, so he will be able to track properly. And by the way, we still have no idea why this bug is a thing. Second burst, same as the first. If you drop your right side weapons and you only have a left arm blade, your blade will be able to lock on the enemy's screen. However, blades appear to the attacker side registration, which means that they won't lose the ability to deal damage, but they will look very weird when you use them. You will start teleporting and getting crazy hits that you shouldn't have possibly gotten in the enemy's screen. Here's some footage of them in action, with and without the glitch active. It doesn't help that blades look weird as hell by default because of the way they work, in that they break the movement system of the game basically. If you are the one using it, you won't notice the difference, as you can see here. However, for the enemy, you will just teleport everywhere the moment you lock onto them, which is very bad. So the only solution is to either, well, it's not really the only, but the solution is to either never use blades or just use a right side blade instead of a left arm one, which is not gonna change absolutely anything other than aesthetics. So it's not a hard bug to avoid. The least known of the wild lock glitches. This will happen when using a chain fire missile, which will fire its projectiles in a long burst as opposed to an instant release of all of them. For example, the wheeling. Sure, you have the chain fire missile on the right, when it's firing it will trigger a wild lock glitch for the duration of its salvo on the left side, and your left side weapons won't be able to track. This is what it looks like when you're being affected by it. This is what it looks like when the enemy is being affected by it. What's the solution? Well, it's pretty simple. Just swap the side of the missile launcher. If it's on the right, just put it on the left and you will be fine. This is probably the most recent glitch to be discovered, and we only found out about it by complete chance one day during a big session. The way it works is that if you're running a tank that has hand missiles in its hangar units as backup weapons, they will not track in the enemy's screen. So they are effectively useless. This is what it looks like when you're being affected by it. This is what it looks like when the enemy is being affected by it. As you can see, when you're being affected by it, you will see them tracking your screen, but since they are not tracking the enemy's screen, which is where it matters, it will look like they are hitting the enemy but doing no damage, and vice versa. For you, it's gonna be looking like the enemy is just dumbfiring them instead of actually locking on with them. What's the solution? It's simple. Swap the order of your weapons so that the hand missiles are equipped in your arms first instead of being in the hanger unit. Or, just don't run hand missiles on a tank. This one is very dumb, but it has some interesting logic behind it. Depending on the energy output of your generator and the energy cost of your overbooster, there will be situations where you can deplete the energy of your generator but still keep the overbooster running, just by your output alone. This is what we call going dry. So what's the big deal with this? Well, if you do this, you will stall out in the enemy's screen. As for them, you basically run your generator out of energy, and thus came to a stop. However, since in your screen that hasn't happened yet, and you have kept the overbooster running on your output, this will send confusing signals to the game and it will fail to comprehend what the fuck is happening, because you're still overboosting despite not having any energy left. This will force the game to fix your position on the enemy's screen, and it will make it look like you're just teleporting everywhere. This is what it looks like when you're the one doing it, and as you can see, for you it looks completely alright. This is what it looks like when the enemy is doing it. See how my game thinks he's just standing out, but he's still moving around. It looks very bad, and you will just teleport everywhere. So what's the solution then? The only solution is to just not do it. If you see that you run your generator dry, cut the overbooster out, or just do the better option of never using overboost to begin with, because it's an obsolete mechanic in my opinion, except for like a few situations where it does come in handy. So what are the drift turns? They are basically free quick turns that you can perform well on the ground by drifting your AC like if it was a car. You might have seen White Clean doing it in the intro. So how do you perform them? Well, on the ground, you push the left stick into whatever direction you want to go towards. Then you quick boost, and after half a second you turn the right stick either to the left or the right in order to drift the AC into looking that way. With a few seconds of practice, you can basically chain these together all you want. Okay, this looks very good, but why is this a problem? Well, remember when I said that the netcode is held together by duct tape and gum? It is so bad that it cannot track drift turns at all, so whenever you perform one, you will end up disappearing from the enemy's screen. Like this. So what's the solution then? Basically there's no solution, other than avoid doing it as much as you can, which can be really annoying for many lane players, as the input to perform it can be easily done by accident when using manual aim. If you have seen my PvP videos, you may have noticed that I tend to stay in the air as much as I can, even when running high power boosters. That might not be the most adequate for prolonged flight. This stupid bug is the entire reason why I do it, I'm not even joking. This one is very simple, so we can just blitz through it. If you try to purge your 063 ECM extensions while they're active, the game will let you purge them, and you won't be able to purge them throughout the duration of the match after you do that, even if they're turned off. The solution? You either activate auto purge and run them out of ammo, or you wait for them to deactivate and then purge them. This is less of a bug and more of an oversight. When you shoot a chain-fire extension like the Muskin Gun Relation missiles or the BFF flares, and you purge them, they will fall through the ground and still be able to fire their missiles while they're detached from your AC. This is the only bug that I actually don't mind people using, because it's not only quite amusing to see, it can also be material for very clever plays, and it is also an entirely one-time thing, so if you can only use it once per fight. So if you waste it, you waste it, and you have no chance to pull it off again. The solution is to simply not do it, but I wouldn't blame you if you want to try to do it, because it's kind of fun. And you can do some pretty funny stuff with it. This one is the only map exclusive exploit in the list, and probably the most stupid and broken out of them. In Mimir, there's a very specific spot near one of the big areas that will let you access the inside of the walls and basically hide inside the map where nobody will be able to find you. Not only that, but you will be able to shoot through the walls and nobody outside will be able to retaliate because their shots will detonate on the walls, meanwhile yours will just go right through. It is stupidly broken, and one of the reasons almost everyone universally agrees to never play this map. This map sucks anyway, so you're not missing much. The solution is to just never play this map, ever. This one concerns RJ legs, or reverse jointed legs, whatever you want to call them, and it is the reason that, well, not the reason, but one of the reasons that you will rarely see anyone using them in ACFA. It's not that they are bad, far from that in fact, they are very good, but they do have a game-breaking bug that may end up crashing your console if you're bearing witness to it. So let me explain. I'm not entirely sure of the magic behind it, but I do have a theory. I've seen it happen 4 times, and from that I made that theory, which is that during very intense situations where the frame rate is getting absolutely annihilated by a big battle, or a battle between multiple players on destructible cover with explosions happening everywhere, this may end up screwing with the collision detection of the RJ legs. The game, being confused, won't know what to do with it, and it will make the parts of your upper body disappear from your AC. Now here's the big deal about it. Should someone look at your mutilated AC, their screen will start flickering and their parts will also disappear. Soon thereafter, their console will crash and the game will freeze. It sounds straight out of a shitty internet horror story, but it's true. Now, for obvious reasons, I did not try to replicate this, as I'd rather not risk my or someone else's PS3 by crashing it with the bug to record footage. But thanks to AlphaSun on Twitter, I will be able to show you what the outcome of the bug looks like. And I also have this picture that I took from one of the times where it happened, and half of my AC was just gone and then my PS3 just crashed. Solution: never use reverse jointed legs unless you're fully aware that they may end up breaking your console, and both you and whoever you're playing with agree to it. Basically, use them at your own risk. Anyway, I hope this was an entertaining and educative video for you people. I am going to reiterate, in case that it wasn't clear from the beginning, I did not make this game with the intention of teaching players how to break the game or exploit it in any way whatsoever. I made this for the exact opposite. I am trying to teach you, or any lost soul who may end up picking up this over 10-year-old game, how to deal and avoid these bugs so that they can have a better experience with it in multiplayer. With that out of the way, this game sucks, don't play it, bye.